Hello, my beautiful students. It's your British English teacher, Stu Sensei here, and I'm here with a fantastic video that is sure to help improve your English. In today's video, we have a 36-minute video with British English listening practice for you today. It's a teacher talk between me and another teacher. Puppy English. Maybe you've met him before. Obviously, that's not his name. His name is Sam. Maybe you've seen him on social media. Another fantastic teacher I recommend to check out. This video was taken actually around about a year ago. I put it on my podcast and I wanted to create it for you today so you could have the chance to not only listen to it and watch the way that we are speaking, but also to learn some new vocabulary from it. So there will be some useful vocabulary popping up throughout the video. Subtitles are also included as usual. Let's get into it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Great to have you here. I'd love to know, why did you become a teacher? What's your background and what made you take this route?
Well, I think becoming a teacher was something like an idea that I always had. Like it was something that I always thought about doing, even when I was at school and when I was at university. But I wanted to become a teacher mainly because I really got into languages. I started to become very passionate about languages, especially when I was around 18 to 21 years old. I started meeting people from different countries, had some friends from Spain, from Poland, and I found learning languages from them and learning languages from a native speaker really great fun. Learning something and then being able to practice it with the people, which is different to what I had at school, where I had a lovely English lady teach me French, but it wasn't quite the same experience. So I think this is where I really got into languages. And from there, I got into the idea of wanting to travel. And I realized that I could travel the world and I could teach English. So I finished university and I've been doing that ever since. I think I've lived in 5 different countries maybe now, traveling, teaching English and learning languages as well.
Amazing. How many languages do you speak?
I speak 4 languages, technically. I speak English, Spanish and Italian well. I also used to speak Portuguese when I lived in Portugal well, but I don't find that many people to practice Portuguese with living outside of Portugal, especially in Europe. So I never get to practice it. So I've kind of forgotten it, but I think if I started using it, I would regain it. I'd regain my confidence. It's somewhere in my head.
Sure, I understand. Okay, interesting. Obviously, a lot of your posts are from different locations. It feels like whenever you're traveling, you're outside somewhere, some interesting location. So what inspires you to help students on social media, and especially in that unique way?
I think the reason that I love teaching English on social media is because I can reach such a large audience and I can reach learners of English from around the world, which is something that I really enjoy, and I really enjoy the feedback I get from it. Like create a community with your Instagram account, and it's the messages in the community. Even though sometimes I don't reply to every message, I'm trying to read them and I'm trying to get an idea of what the audience want. And I really love that. And one of the reasons having this global audience, and another passion of mine is traveling. I actually studied geography at university as well. I really love traveling. I love learning about different cultures. I love trying different foods from different places. So I had this idea to create a vlog, teaching English, a kind of vlog, which is a travel vlog. So it kind of goes into the travel vlog idea and the language learning vlog idea. So for about a year now, I started this about a year ago, I've been visiting different cities around Europe to begin with. I think I've been a lot in Italy, a little bit in the UK, Germany, Spain and Turkey this year as well. I've been trying to make the videos there, teaching English in context as well. So it's not, I'm going to teach you 10 phrasal verbs in this video. It's no, we're going to walk around the city. I'm going to show you what I think is interesting and I'm going to try and teach you some language related to this. So it's learning English in a more natural way, which I think is one of the benefits of traveling. If you haven't traveled before, it's going to help you learn English a lot, because you need English when you travel. Obviously, it's a global language, and you learn a lot of things just in context. Like, you go to a museum and you have to read about the things in the museum in English, obviously, and you're going to learn new vocabulary related to those things. So this is the kind of idea, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I hope it grows. And I have plans to travel to many different places, maybe your city, your country as well, and make videos. And also, just one thing I want to add about this is that I want these videos to be used in classrooms as well. I want teachers to use them. So my idea is that I'm going to create a website for the videos, in which I will create lesson resources alongside the video. So a worksheet and lesson plan. I already had some teachers telling me they're using them in their classes. And this is something I'm quite passionate about, making videos that are not only to check out on social media, but to use as lesson resources.
Is it? Yeah. So it's like your two dreams have come together, really, in a sense. You're teaching, and you're also traveling, and you're then helping other teachers, which is another, maybe a progressive dream that's come about.
Yeah, it's trying to combine everything together. And trying to make it all add up, and trying to find what I want to do with my work. It's not necessarily following what's going to get me the most followers and likes straight away. This is quite a specific audience I'm reaching. So, I'm not chasing the algorithm, as, we talk about when we're working on social media, following the trend. But I think in the long term, it's something that can be really rewarding for English learners and English teachers, and for myself as well. Obviously, it's expensive traveling. So I know a lot of people ask me, how do you travel and do all of that? So luckily, I have quite a lot of flexibility with my work, working on social media and working online. And also, I'm lucky enough to work with a publisher, which I travel with them to do teacher training sessions and things like that. And I try and fit in the travels with other work. That's something that I'm trying to do now. Obviously, this is all very recent, post-pandemic world, so it's all very new. But so far, it's been a good ride. I've had a lot of fun.
That's good. Good news. And obviously, you've got a lot of inspiration from your travels and helping people and experiencing being taught by speakers from different countries. So do you have any advice for anyone who wants to become a teacher?
Absolutely. So from my own experience, the best thing you can do when you first become a teacher is get as many new experiences as possible. I taught in a lot of different schools. I did a lot of different types of classes. I taught young learners, I taught teenagers, I taught adults, I taught business classes, conversation classes, exam classes. So try and gather as much experience as you can, because it's going to teach you all of the skills you need, and it's also going to tell you what you like to do and what you find rewarding. I don't think I've ever met a teacher who likes teaching everything. They usually have a favorite thing, so you can direct yourself in that way. And a lot of teachers, they do their initial teacher training, and then they get the experience of teaching classes, which is absolutely great. But what you can also do is take advantage of many webinars or conferences for English training. There are also other courses you can do, specific courses for teaching exam English, teaching young learners, which are really useful as well. So if you can, see it as, you're through the door, you've started teaching, but always look to expand and improve as a teacher, because there are lots of opportunities as well in English language teaching, and there are many different things you can do. And if the more experiences and the more training and the more people you meet in this world, the more exciting your career can be.
So obviously on social media, there's many students that follow you and they're learning a lot from your lessons. A lot of students who are not in native speaking countries are really worried about the way they speak. So what would you say to those people?
Yeah, I have a lot of messages about this, about pronunciation, concerns about their pronunciation and concerns about accent. A lot of the time, these students don't have a lot of experience in an English-speaking environment. And it is important to make sure that you are well understood in terms of your pronunciation. And this you can do by being in an English-speaking environment as much as possible. You need to find experiences and gain experiences and build your confidence. The more you practice, the more precise you're going to be. The more precise you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be. And the more confident you're going to be, the more you're going to practice. So it becomes a cycle, and you need to get yourself into that cycle, and you're going to grow and improve the more you do it. But I know that a lot of you are timid at first, maybe a bit shy, maybe a bit insecure about making mistakes with your pronunciation. But absolutely don't be timid, don't be shy, don't be insecure. If somebody was speaking your language and they had some problems in pronunciation, I'm sure you would understand, I'm sure you'd help them, and I'm sure you would make them feel comfortable. Nobody is going to criticize you or laugh at you or think you're silly or stupid because you make a pronunciation mistake. You are learning another language. It's something to be admired. And not everybody learns another language. It's a difficult thing to do. So don't be shy. Be brave. By making mistakes, you learn. And as I said before, the more mistakes you make, later, the more precise you're going to be. The more precise you are, the more confidence you're going to have. And then you're going to want to practice more.
Many learners, obviously being in their own countries and speaking to people around them in English, are worried about their own language and the pronunciation they use within their own language rubbing off when they're using English. And many learners are interested in sounding more similar to the people that they watch on TV, so maybe native speakers from different backgrounds. Do you think a learner can sound like a native?
Absolutely. They can. I'm not sure if it should be the top goal for being a language learner. I think the top goal should be to be able to communicate effectively. And for this, you don't need to sound British, American, Australian. You don't need a native English accent. I know many non-native English speakers who have their accent who are excellent communicators. Excellent communicators, much better than 99% of native communicators, or maybe of anyone. So accent isn't everything, but I understand that some people want the accent. It's a preference, it's a taste. So if you want that, you can absolutely go and get it. There are many things you can do. You can mimic a native speaker. So maybe you find a native speaker role model that you really like the way they speak, you like their intonation, you like their pronunciation, you like the way they communicate. So you can watch them on YouTube or on Instagram. You can mimic Stu here as well. You can listen to a little bit of his video, 10 seconds, and then you can repeat what he said, trying to copy his pronunciation, his intonation. I was working on a video last week, actually, with a great content creator, Jason Levine, Fluency MC. So he teaches English through rap songs. He's really good. He's great. And we were working on a video. He's rapping about a story, The Great Gatsby, which is a classic American piece of literature. And he does the fast version of the rap, and then he does the slow version of the rap. And with the slow version, he sings a sentence, and then he gives you a space to sing it as well, and copy like his intonation, his pronunciation of that sentence, which is really something fun that you can do to practice your pronunciation with songs as well. like this is specifically designed for English learners. What we were doing with Jason, but you can do it with music in general as well. You can just stop and like repeat the sentence of Rihanna or Jay-Z or Justin Bieber. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite unique, his style. So I think it's a cool way to, many people want to use songs or even movies or anything to practice English, but sometimes don't know where to begin. And I think he's also showing the way that you can use music to practice, so it's really, really amazing. Okay. And what general tips do you give to students who want to improve their pronunciation? Are there any things they can do at home?
There are many things you can do at home. For one thing, as many of you might be already following English teachers like Stu, like myself on social media, this can help you a lot. Sometimes we make videos specifically on pronunciation to help you. And even if it's not specifically on pronunciation, you can see and hear how we're pronouncing the words. And that's going to help you a lot. Also, something you can do at home is you can download some apps that are now available that are very good for training your pronunciation. You might have heard a couple of them before. I think for American pronunciation, you can use Elsa Speak, which has some cool pronunciation features. So you can basically, it gives you sentences to read, and then it records you and tells you where you made mistakes, what was good, what was bad, and then you can practice again, and it will tell you like if you improved, if it's worse. There are some like green, it analyzes the sentence, like the green means good, red means bad, orange means somewhere in between. A similar one for British English is Veepsy. It's been around now for a few months, and that's getting better, that app as well, for improving pronunciation. There are a few features, similar features like Elsa. So that's something you can do at home on your own. Again, like it's going to help you become more precise and build your confidence. And then when you go out, obviously the best way of improving your anything in English is going out and speaking and practicing. But as something you can do at home on your own, I think it's a great resource as well.
You supply a lot of content online that give many interesting phrases, maybe phrasal verbs, and also idioms. Do you think that all of those things are important to understand? Do they affect daily conversation, and are they important to use?
It depends on circumstances. If you are going to live in the UK, you might need to know some British slangs and British idioms. It might be useful. If you are wanting to learn business English so that you can do business with your international colleagues, maybe knowing British slang, for example, or a very British idiom or expression is not useful. But as a language learner, as a language enthusiast, I love idioms and I love phrasal verbs and expressions and slangs. I think it's what makes a language beautiful and what makes a language unique. And a lot of the time, those idioms and slang expressions are very much connected to the language's culture. So when you learn them, you're also learning about the culture of a language. But absolutely, I do think the more idioms, the more expressions you know, the better you are at expressing yourself in the language. So obviously we want a language is a tool to express ourselves. So the more vocabulary, the more advanced the vocabulary, the more expressions, more idioms we know, the better we can express ourselves. Maybe the person you're speaking to doesn't know the expression, the idiom. It's possible, but then you can always explain. But obviously you can always change the language you're using depending on the speaker, which is obviously a skill as well. You need to adjust your language to who you are talking to, which often I've heard some people criticize British people because they don't do this when they're speaking to an international audience, let's say. They are using their slangs, their idioms, expressions, something that natives need to learn to do as well, to adjust our language, because English is this international language of business. We need to learn how to adjust our language to the speaker, to the listener.
Yeah, definitely so. You picked up an interesting point there. Like you mentioned that if you're going to Britain, that it's useful learning maybe some British slang or some specific idioms that British people use, but many learners try to learn everything, so do you think it's important to work out what to focus on? If you, like, what's your goal or what you're going to be using it for? Because that could maybe, I don't know, what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, you need to define your goals, what you're learning the language for. And then you should look at learning the language to fit those goals. So if you are planning to go to the UK, absolutely include British English, British expressions, British idioms. I mean, I have a lot of content about that, but that's because there is a demand for that. People are following accounts like mine because they're really interested in British English.
Yeah, of course.
So, you can adjust the language you're learning, the resources you're using for what your goal. If your goal is to pass a upper intermediate exam, for example, the Cambridge exams or the American version of the exam, you should adjust your goals to that and use the resources that are available. There are YouTubers, there are Instagrammers that are focused on making content for that. And obviously there are books, resources, podcasts that are focused for doing that. So you can adjust the kind of resources you use. You need to use Google effectively. What are the keywords for my goal? And find the great content. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How about advanced vocabulary? Because there's, English has a wide arrangement of words. There's like, some people report that there's over 1 million words in English. And obviously, we don't necessarily use every single one of those, but there's a lot of advanced vocabulary that people, when, as a learner, as soon as we see something we don't know, we feel like I must understand what this means. It's definitely going to be super important because you don't know it, So do you think it's important to learn advanced vocabulary?
Well, if you're just starting to learn English, it's not important. It's not the most important thing. You probably want to stay away from that. You want to learn the right things for the level. Absolutely. As you get into an intermediate, then more advanced, you need to find out what the vocabulary is for that. If you, like Stu has said, like if you find a word that is kind of crazy, you don't necessarily need to learn it. And it's true. I don't use every word. Stu doesn't use every word in the English language. So, but I would say, like, learning English is a process, and you've got to learn to enjoy the process. So you're going to go through periods where you're learning this vocabulary, then that vocabulary, and then more advanced vocabulary. I don't think it's a destination. I'm still learning words. Like, I think it is important to expand your vocabulary and learn advanced words, because I think I mentioned it before. The more words we know, the more advanced our vocabulary is, the better we are at expressing ourselves. So that should be always the goal. But don't get overwhelmed if you don't know every word that you see. It's absolutely normal. One way, obviously, you can improve your vocabulary is by reading. And if you want to know the level, you need to know the right level of book to read for your level of English as well, which is very important.
100%. Yeah, definitely so. Obviously, reading is something that many people grab those advanced words from. And I always try to explain to my students that a book has to have a variety of words in order for it to maintain the interest and to put that picture in your head. It's a very specific picture, but in terms of spoken English, it doesn't mean that we use all of those words in everyday life. So just to be aware of that kind of thing. You've obviously learned a lot of languages from being in different places. So, and there's a lot of words, like I mentioned, in English to potentially learn. So do you have any tricks, maybe not the best word, but do you have any methods that you've used that you found effective for yourself that's helped you to maintain or get to a good level with, especially with learning new vocabulary?
Yes. So my main method of learning new vocabulary is I read in the language. So obviously, when I'm first beginning, I'm reading at a very low level. Reading at a very low level. I might be even reading children's books. But I want to be reading something that I understand 70%. So there's possibly 30% of the words that I don't know and 70% of the words that I do know. So I'm going to be able to understand the words that I don't know through the context. Okay, I get the gist of it because I understand the words around it and I can figure it out myself. So this is an effective way of first starting to get an exposure to a new word in context. This is also something you can do by watching videos, by watching TV, level to you as well. What I do then is I will make a note of the word. This could also happen if I was in a conversation as well. Somebody says something and I don't know it. I might just try and remember it, or I might ask them to explain the word to me. And later I will make a note. After that, I use Quizlet. Quizlet.
Okay, yeah.
So Quizlet, you can add those vocabulary, kind of like flashcards. So you can practice the vocabulary as a flashcard. You can put the word on one side and the definition on the other side. And then you've got it on your phone. So, okay, I want to practice a word. I can practice the flashcards. It shows you the definition. I need to remember the word. You can write the definition in the language you're learning, or you can write the definition in your language. But also on Quizlet, there are many games as well that I use for vocab, like vocab memorizing games. So it makes it a bit more fun. But that's quite a good thing to do. I had a lot of fun learning on Quizlet, and I still think it's one of the best resources for learning vocabulary. It's been around for a while, but it's a good one.
Yeah, many people say about Quizlet. I've used Anki in the past. I don't know if you've heard of this one, but it's without the games, not so many games, but it's like a spaced repetition flashcard system where things come up, over time. So they're useful. If there's games, I think that's another method to help people retain for sure. We, especially those words that don't come up often, you want a reason for it to be there, don't you? Because you can't be in those situations every time. So many students, when they start to learn a language, obviously input is very, very important, so that we can get a gist of what's happening. And maybe we need some words to go in first before we can have some output coming through. And many people start off with reading. Now, what I've noticed from learners that come to me is that they often say they want to start reading, and which news website should they start with, even from day one, because that's what they do in their own language. So do you think it's useful to start reading at that position, that kind of level of language with news articles?
I think it can be challenging starting to read news articles, especially if you don't have so much exposure to the language already. Could be a difficult place to start. But often a good place to start is to read something that you're interested in, because you probably know a lot of the vocabulary anyway. So maybe, if you're interested in a certain thing that's going on in the news, you know the vocabulary because you've been reading it in your language. It could be something useful to do, like read a similar article in English or the language that you're trying to learn, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the news. You might be interested in cars, so you're going to read a blog about cars or about baking or something like that. Obviously, I don't think then you should just go, okay, I'm interested in cars, I'm just going to read articles about cars, because one of the reasons you want to read is to expand your vocabulary, to see how people communicate about different subjects. So if you're just doing the same subject, you're going to have a very focused set of vocabulary. So you want to read lots of different types of things, talking about different types of things to expand your vocabulary as much as possible. So yeah, if it's your interest, give it a go at the beginning and then try and grow into different areas.
Okay. Do you think there's like a nice percentage that we should be able to understand from whatever we're reading? Because obviously if you're a beginner and you go straight into a news article, it might be very stop-start as you do it. Yeah. So how about...
Yeah, I think you should understand about 70% of it, and 30% no. I think that's a good area to be learning. You're going to get the threshold of, there's enough information here that I'm not going to get discouraged, but there's enough information that I don't know that I'm improving and I'm learning. So about 30%, Obviously, don't get discouraged if you don't understand every word. It's absolutely normal. I read articles as a native speaker, and sometimes I come across a word and I go, "Oh, what does that mean?" And I have to look in the dictionary. I don't look in the dictionary. I Google it, but yeah, in my dictionary. So yeah, I think if you have to go with how you feel. How you feel. Am I learning here? Is it too easy? And adjust to that.
What do you think about graded readers? Because many people are looking to find, how can we say, in nearly every part of language, we have like some kind of system where you're gradually going up. Even the most basic is B1, B2, A1, A2, C1. Like there's a general outline that we generally have. But in terms of reading, do you think that it's useful to do something like graded readers where they have that kind of system in place so you can gradually level up whilst you're practicing?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I have a lot of experience with graded readers. I work with a publisher who make graded readers. So if you don't know what a graded reader is, they are books. So it could be like a storybook, literature, classics of the literature, like Charles Dickens or William Shakespeare, something like this. But the books are adapted, the language is adapted for different levels of English. So if you are a beginner, if you're A1, A2, a beginner of English, you are going to find the books that are adapted for that level. If you're B1, B2, intermediate, upper intermediate, you're going to get the books adapted to that level. So adapted in language. So the language is targeted to be easy enough so you can understand a lot of it, but also there is vocabulary in there that is going to help you improve for that level. And often the graded readers come with exercises and activities that are really useful for learning language as you're reading as well, like grammar exercises, vocabulary exercises, and they come with audio as well very often. So absolutely, I think graded readers are a really useful way, especially at the beginning, but even up to advanced level, you can take advantage of it to introduce yourself to starting to read in a language. It's going to help build your confidence, and you have the levels. They tell you the levels which you need, which books you need. So there is no doubt there. Yeah, I work with Black Cat CDEB, and their graded readers are really good. They're the only publisher in the world that focus specifically on graded readers. So for me, they are the best ones. They come with audio and activities, and the language is leveled, and they have a massive library, like a huge library of books. So whatever you're interested in, mystery, comedy, books for all ages as well, for young learners, you have everything, and all of the classics as well. Because obviously, in my opinion, that's one of the reasons you want to read in a language as well, because through reading the classics of a language, you also learn about the culture of the language, which I believe is really important. If you want to master a language and really understand the world better, you want to read the literature of that language. I mean, I've read Italian literature, Spanish literature, Portuguese literature, and it helps me understand their world and how those people see the world and think as well. Especially the classics. The classics are everything.
So that's super useful that the company you're talking about has also audio connections to these books. Not only are they graded, but also people can listen and hear if they understand the pronunciation, or sometimes, especially at the beginning, sometimes you need to hear the word rather than see it to actually understand what the word is. So it's useful to have that attached to it for sure. With that kind of those kind of ideas that we put in place about maybe 70% is a nice amount of the book you should understand and have some also learning involved there as well, and the graded reader idea. How do you think that students can improve their fluency? Do you think along that path gives them the opportunity to build up also their reading speed as they have a bit of confidence reading the books because of the level and what they're learning as well at the same time? Because like we mentioned, stop-start is not going to be good for your reading fluency in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. The more you read, the more your reading fluency is going to increase, and definitely by using materials like graded readers, that's going to create a gradual improvement. One thing I would like to mention actually is, from my experience of learning a language, reading actually helped my fluency with speaking.
Interesting.
Yeah, which seems a bit strange, but everything's connected in language. Obviously, everything is connected. What I found is I gained this little technique. If I knew I was going to speak Spanish later that day with a Spanish friend or with a group of Spanish people, and perhaps I hadn't spoken Spanish for a couple of weeks or something, so, I'm feeling a bit rusty, I would just spend like 10 minutes reading in Spanish, just making all of those cognitive connections again with the language, refreshing it. And then when I went to speak the language, it was like fresh, and I could speak much better. Like, I could speak much fluently. So if you're somebody who's not speaking English all the time, every day, just spend like 10 minutes before you go and speak in English, read in English, read in your head. Because I in my experience, when I read in my head, I sound great in Spanish or Italian and Portuguese. My fluency, my pronunciation is perfect. Read in your head. Also try reading out loud if you can. And then go and speak the language and see the difference. Like, trust me, it really helps. It really helps.
I can believe that, because it's like there's a few things that we do in sports that we don't do in anything else, but we could learn to do in terms of preparation. Because, like, obviously we do a warm-up or some kind of stretching, or even if we take football, for example, you're going to be playing with the ball before you're going to be touching the ball before you even go into the actual game. And that helps you, because it's not like a cold start where if you just go in without any prep, perhaps you're not 100% from the first moment in that case. So I can see how it's almost, by reading before you go there, it's like turning the switch on in a way.
Exactly.
What was the most important point you heard from that? I'd love to know. Tell me in the comments. If you can put it in, maybe it will help another learner as well. Let's help each other. That's it for this one, but there is a playlist full of this type of videos, and I will be adding more and more and more and more, so you get the opportunity to listen to some of your favorite teachers giving you some advice about how to learn English, and you can practice your listening skills. Check it out here.